Welcome to the Pompton Lakes Planning Board meeting, February 20, 2024. The following is the agenda for the regular meeting of the Pompton Lakes Planning Board. The meeting is to be held in the Municipal Building, 25 Lenox Avenue on Tuesday, February 2024, beginning at 7:30 p.m. Formal advance notice is required by NJSA 10:4-1 at SEC. Has been provided to this meeting at least 48 hours in advance of today, giving the time, date, and location, and to the extent known at the time, the agenda of this meeting. Such notice stated that formal action may or may not be taken. This meeting will be video recorded and will be rebroadcast for later viewing for the public. The notice was, 1, posted on the bulletin board outside of the offices of the municipal clerk, reserved for this and other similar announcements. 2, provided to the Suburban Trends, the newspaper designated by the council and the planning board to receive such notices. And 3, filed with the borough clerk. Please stand for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Carl.
Yes. Mr. Simone?
Here.
Mr. Fercaro is absent. Mr. Trost?
Absent.
Yep. Ms. Michael?
Present.
Mr. Otto?
Here.
Dr. Pendexter?
Here.
Mr. Keating?
Here.
Mr. Aguilar?
Here.
Mr. Balby?
Here.
Mayor Sarah?
Here.
And Councilman Bennett?
Here.
Okay, first item on the agenda tonight is the reorganization and regular minutes from January 16, 2024. Have you all had a chance to review them, and what is your pleasure?
I move to approve.
Move to approve, second?
Second it.
Second. Any comments, discussions, corrections? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any absent? Okay, the only correspondence I have is an ordinance from the Borough of Bloomingdale in the County of Passaic, the State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 92 of their zoning, Article 5 regulations governing certain uses, Section 92-26, miscellaneous uses of the Code of the Borough of Bloomingdale. Other than that, there's no other correspondence, right?
The resolutions, which...
Well, okay, we also got a copy of the resolutions from the borough that was for the appointments of the professionals, which would be the attorney, the planner, and the engineer. That just basically resolves what we did at the meeting last month. So with that said, we're going to go into an application. Tonight's meeting has one application on it, and for those who are not used to being here, and we certainly appreciate you all coming, the way we run the meeting is that the applicant presents through his attorney and his professionals whatever testimony, and it is sworn testimony, to the board on the application. The application for tonight is PB 2303 Pi Holdings LLC, 735 Hamburg Turnpike, Pompton Lakes, New Jersey, Block 6703, Lot 4, Zone GWD. So once they're complete with their application presentation, then I go to my engineer to find out issues that may have been unresolved that he has to comment on. And then there'll be an opportunity for the board members to ask questions. And then there'll be an opportunity for the public to ask questions. So I just would request that you hold any questions that you have until I open the meeting to the public session. And then once that's closed, then hopefully you'll get answers to that, or we'll go into additional testimony as needed. And then back to the board for deliberation and or a decision or carry, depending on where we are at the meeting at the time. So that's just to give you kind of a handle on how we're going to do this. And with that said, the attorney for the applicant, would you please come forward and begin your presentation?
Evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Bruce Whitaker from the firm of McDonald Whitaker, representing the applicant, Pi Holdings LLC. We have previously sent out notice to the public and have published it submitted copies of our affidavit of service and proof of publication to both the board as well as to council. Just want to place on the record that it's all in order and meets the requirements under municipal land use law.
Thank you. Carm, you have the copies of the notices, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I've also, for the expediency for the board, provided you with a list of exhibits that we are going to go through this evening as part of our presentation. So we'll be referring to that list as we move forward. Pi Holdings LLC is the owner of the property at 735 Hamburg Turnpike, as well as 719 Hamburg Turnpike, shown on your tax map as block 6703, lots number 4, as well as lot 4.01. The property is located in the Gateway District Zone. It has an area of 69,728 square feet. It far exceeds the 10,000 square foot requirement for this zone. The property has a width of 165 feet, where 60 feet is required. As you know, there's a 2-story commercial building on the property already. The applicant is not proposing any expansion of the building in any manner whatsoever. The site exceeds all of the bulk requirements, and it has a combined side yard setback of 101.4 feet, where only 25 feet is required. Your board, some years back, I was not part of that application, granted an approval to permit construction of a 968 square foot addition. You have that resolution that's attached to the application that was submitted. That work has been completed as far as the building expansion is concerned. You granted certain variances with that application and with that approval. Those variances would remain in effect, although we would have a modification as it pertains to the parking aspect, which you will hear tonight, will be an improvement over what you previously approved. When the construction was started, and you'll hear the testimony this evening, the County of Passaic, through their land use board, their planning board, required substantial changes to the subsurface stormwater detention system. And it required it to be located to the rear of the site, which is contrary to what was on the plans that were approved by this board. This would result in the cutting and excavation into the slope. So the applicant moved ahead, and you'll hear testimony this evening, proceeded with permitting, but was working on the plan that the county approved, but not the plan that this board approved. And those of you who've been to the site recognize that they moved ahead with that, and then it was determined and found that the plans that you approved here and the county planning board approval plans, they did not match. So work was halted at that point, and so what the applicant is seeking this evening is an amended site plan approval to proceed and continue with the work that was started to basically meet all of the requirements and approval that was granted by the county planning board. I think by the purpose of our meeting here tonight, not only to receive amended site plan approval, but I believe you will see from the engineering testimony that we are going to provide that overall, the plan that's being proposed will, from a planning perspective, be substantially better than the plan that was originally approved by the board. Not that the board did anything wrong, but the board granted some variances that at this point can be modified, for instance with parking, to increase the parking on the site. And we know anytime we can take a non-conformity, which is what happened when there was variance relief granted for the parking, and we can reduce or eliminate a non-conformity, from a planning perspective, that's a positive aspect. So the applicant is before you this evening for an amended site plan. We are not changing any of the variances that you previously granted, except we will be modifying the parking variance, which is something that at this point our engineer will testify to. We've made a request for certain waivers. They're spelled out and listed in the Collier's engineering report, but basically pertains to not providing some information on the plans because quite frankly they're not relevant. We're not showing building elevations or utility plan or the service letter from the utilities or location of utilities, only because we're not doing anything to the building. The building is there and there is no modification to the building. We are requesting certain new variance relief, and that pertains to lot coverage. It pertains to constructing this wall in the restricted slope area, and it pertains to putting a wall that is more than 4 feet in height into that area, and also as it pertains to the location of the parking. Those variances will all be explained during the course of our presentation. Unless there's any questions of me, I will call our first witness, Douglas Doolittle. He is our site engineer. McNally Engineering was the engineers that originally prepared the plans and were here before. They're very cognizant, obviously, of the project. And then I also have an engineer here that is here specifically as an engineer to describe and determine, tell you how the wall is constructed. And that is their expertise in wall construction of this nature. So
I have one question for you.
Certainly.
So we all understand where we're going. There was approval, it changed when the county did their review, and now you're asking for some additional changes depending on, you know, what you present tonight. My question for you is the county approval drawing, whatever they approved that allowed you to do what you did, available here tonight?
We have it as part, and Mr. Doolittle will explain that to you.
Okay, so
Yes.
we don't have that in our package, or it's part of that?
He's going to testify to show you that what the county approved is basically what is on the plan this evening, with a modification to that with the park.
Okay, I just want to make sure that the board understands, and the residents as well, the difference between what was approved here, what was changed as a result of the county, and what might be requested as a result of the county.
That is the purpose of my presentation.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Doug?
Please raise your right hand, state your name, spell your last.
Douglas W. Doolittle, Doolittle.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give this evening before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Mr. Doolittle, would you give the board and members of the public the benefit of your education and professional background?
Yeah, I'm a licensed professional engineer, land surveyor, and planner in the state of New Jersey. I've been practicing engineering and land surveying and planning in northern New Jersey for about 45 years. I'm a graduate of NJIT with a degree in civil engineering. And again, been qualified in front of numerous boards. I also was qualified on the prior approval on this.
And you've been qualified prior to, on this particular application, and nothing has changed with your credentials since the last time you were qualified?
That's correct.
I'd ask that he be qualified as an expert witness in the field of civil engineering, and on that basis be able to provide an expert's opinion in that field.
So noted.
Thank you very much. Mr. Doolittle, you are very aware of this property, and you were involved with the initial application and the approval before this board.
Yes.
And what I'd like you to do is to take us through the history of what occurred as far as the approval process is concerned, and then to explain what is now being proposed based on the county approval, and compare the one to the other.
Yep. This was in front of this board for approval back in 2018. I have a copy of the resolution, number 17-0, of the date is, I'm not sure if that's 11/04/2018. And the resolution basically approved the plan that was submitted to this board, dated 7/7/17, last revised to 2/5/2018, which is referred to in the resolution. That plan basically did not have any retention, storage, or detention at the time in front of this board. We weren't adding any increase in coverage at the time. We didn't feel we were gonna need to have to put any in. And then when we got this board's approval, we went to the county and wrestled back and forth with them until we got their unconditional approval on August 29th, 2019.
Mr. Doolittle, I show you a letter dated August 29, 2019, that states in part that the site plan application before the planning board was unconditionally approved. Is that correct?
That is correct. If I could just grab my easel.
I have that as A11 as your exhibits.
And any drawings that he refers to, if they're on the...
They're all referenced in on your list.
I just need to know which ones he's looking at.
Exactly, we'll go through them.
I'm sorry, what was the date of that approval?
August 29, 2019.
Thank you. This is the county approval, which came after your board approval, which reversed to the county letter. What we had to do for them was originally, when it was approved here.
Drawing number, please?
Yes.
Hold on a second.
Let me give you one of these, Doug, and you can look at this, and then you can put on the record which exhibit it is.
A11?
Mr. Chairman, do we have some pictures to show here on the computer?
I'm sorry.
Can we get the pictures on the other two?
No, just for that one. So the
So
other-
if that's the prior one, it may not be on that list.
I don't know.
Yes, this is the August 12th letter.
That's my computer.
To the county.
That's yours?
Okay, so let's make this exhibit A13.
Do you have copies?
I can give the board, I have one extra copy I can give to the board.
Can you mark that accordingly, please?
A13.
There is a-
And what is this plan, for the record, what does this plan depict, Mr. Doolittle?
This was submitted to the county for approval based on that letter. And what the county required us to do, we had originally 2 seepage pits in the front. When we came to this board, we removed them, and we wound up putting an underground retention system in the back of the property behind the existing curb line at that time. So it cut into the bottom of that slope a little bit, and then at that time, we also showed parking back here, which is depicted on the new plan today.
Now that reversal, if you will, or change, I should say, modification to the plan, that was promulgated and required by the county,
Yes.
and that was on the basis of that August 29th letter.
Yes, and what they made us do was basically, they said, no, you have bare ground, all your impervious coverage, we want it stored on the property. We don't want to just give you any small increases or the increase of the parking lot. So this new system that went on the plan up on your projector there, wound up having a substantially larger detention system. It's about 50% bigger than the one on this plan today. And what we basically did, the same thing here, we wound up originally proposing a system to the rear, we hit rock in here, so the system got flipped in on the existing parking lot area, which is on the new plan today. We put, street drains out in the front here, collect this water, take it to the back and store it in here. There's a series of catch basins along between the 2 curb lines where the existing new parking is going, and all that water is stored in the retention system. The pavement in the back here is porous pavement, so that leaches down to it percolates into a drainage system underneath the pavement, and that also gets into the new drainage system.
Now, on the basis of what was approved by the board originally, and then what was approved by the county of Passaic and required by the county of Passaic, is the new drainage system that was proposed by the county of Passaic a better system overall from a drainage perspective than what was approved here at the board?
Yes,
And why is that?
because the system is substantially larger, and we're taking all the runoff from this point from Hamburg Turnpike back and running that into our retention system, storing the entire thing on site.
Now, on the basis of what the county of Passaic required you to do, you just testified that there was another modification made from the county of Passaic's approval. Did the drainage system even get larger than what they wanted?
It got larger for the plan that we've submitted today,
And how much larger would that be?
roughly
percentage-wise?
50%.
So the drainage system being proposed now is 50% greater than the one that was even required by the Passaic County Planning Board.
Yes, that's correct.
And the Passaic County Planning Board's drainage system was an improvement over what was approved here at the local level.
That's correct.
You're very familiar with stormwater management ordinances and statutes that currently exist.
Yes.
Some of the new regulations that came down this past, last year.
Yeah.
Is your testimony that all of those requirements under the stormwater management ordinances are met with this particular plan?
Yes, they are, and we prepared and submitted a drainage calculation report, a stormwater management report based on the DEP requirements under the National Resource Conservation Services.
She's trying to do that right now.
And that's what's been marked as A7, the stormwater management report dated 12/6/23.
Yes.
Okay. And you also, as one of the requirements under your stormwater management provisions, is to have an operating agreement also, and that's part of that?
That is correct.
And that operating manual,
Hold on a second, Mr. Whitaker, we're having some difficulties here.
Can I turn that one off manually?
looks like we're gonna watch a show.
Oh, you got it there? Okay.
Oh, my gosh. I got it.
We have a couple of ghosts in our system, apparently.
You got more room.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Carl.
So just
It's
to,
not me.
just to go back again on that last question, the stormwater management, report that you presented dated 12/6/23, also accompanied with that is the operation manual that's required, is that correct?
That's correct, based on the DEP requirements under best management practices.
So originally you were here and parking was approved and the parking variance was granted to permit 55 spaces when 73 were required, isn't that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. What is now being proposed as far as the parking aspect is concerned?
Now, by adding that parking in the rear, we've increased the parking spaces to 69. We're 4 deficient instead of at 55, and that would make us, I believe, 14 deficient.
So we have 69 proposed?
Yes,
And 73 required?
yes,
So we would be 4 short?
yes.
Okay. With the parking that you're proposing, you did not show any EV parking, is that correct?
That is correct.
So it would be correct under the new statute and ordinances that are required, if we were to add 4 EV stations to this, which is still under the 10% requirement. At that point, we would, 4 plus the 69, never let a lawyer do math, but 4 plus the 69 would give you 73, and then you would have conforming parking, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Now, I'd like you to just walk us through the plan and show where that parking is located.
This line across the shaded area is where the existing pavement ended in 2018, where it had ended before they put the drainage system in. This is the new pavement and the new parking. We're adding 21 parking spaces in here. It's going to be accessed through a 2-way directional traffic flow through here, and then it's going to go in away from the slope behind it. The drainage system will be proposed in on where the old pavement was, which has already been installed.
What's the drawing number you're on, by the way?
That would be A2.
A2. Please note that as you go through it.
Yes, I'm sorry. The parking stalls, aisle widths, et cetera, all are code compliant?
Yes, they are.
And on the basis of that, with the installation of the AVs, we would be conforming from parking and we would eliminate the variance previously granted.
Yes.
Take us through the other improvements that are being proposed. We would start out with lighting,
Yep, we have a lighting detail sheet.
and I'll just give you a number on that, that would be A6.
Yeah, if you start under the new construction, the new parking lot, we've got 4 lights on spotlights with, on poles in the new proposed parking area facing away from the, rear property line or the residential area and into our building towards the Amherst Turnpike. And then the rest of the lighting, there's a little heavier lighting on the, southeast side because the parking lot's a little wider, so we have 3 on the side, 2 on the rear, and then we got smaller lighting, because it's narrow on the north, we have 3 lights. So basically, the entire parking lot has been lit up, and it could be shielded from any residents or any air problem or everything.
You're familiar with the lighting ordinances in the municipality, is that correct?
Yes,
Will this, the isometrics here, meet all of the requirements under the guidelines and requirements of the local ordinance?
yes, and they're on the plan.
Next, we recognize that we have an intrusion into the slope of the rear.
That's
And we've set up a set of plans pertaining to existing conditions and then sediment, soil, and erosion, A3 and A4, and A5, which is the slope plan. I'd like you, recognizing we have an engineer to testify as to the integrity of the wall proposed, but I would like you, from a site perspective, to walk us through what is being proposed as far as the construction or the installation of the wall.
Yeah, the brown area is the steep slope area variance. I believe it's 9,761 square feet. That's cutting into the slope. The slope is mostly rock. As a matter of fact, when we started to put the drainage system back in here, that's why we flipped it over and put it in here, because there was substantially less rock over here. So we decided to put this wall in here. It faces Hamburg Turnpike, very minimal parts, the front of the wall can be seen from either end. The back, long length of the wall can't be seen from up at the top because it's facing Hamburg Turnpike. And I think it'll be an aesthetically pleasing wall when the engineer testifies, he'll go through that.
So you talked that you started and commenced the walk, so just explain what was done and what's the stage is right now.
This had been rock hammered out in here so that we could get this down to grade to a subgrade for the parking lot and the asphalt and the drainage system underneath that, and then footings have been started for the wall that's in there today.
What would be the maximum height of this wall?
The maximum height starts at 0 on each end. Here, down here goes up to about 18 feet, then it drops down to an average of about 15 along the back.
Now, you are cognizant of wall construction, cognizant of soil conditions as part of your engineering expertise.
Yes.
I'd like you to just to give us an overview of the wall location, the soil conditions there, and how the wall and the drainage pattern will fit on this, from this plan.
Okay. The wall itself is sitting on probably, I didn't actually see it get installed, but it's going to sit on a foundation on top of the shot rock, the trap rock that's in here, so it's going to have a very good foundation when it goes in and it's installed. I believe Ceci, the design engineers, have been doing all the inspections on it. They can give you more details. There's a substantial drainage drain behind the wall with substantial stone to the surface. And the grade behind the wall does not come up all the way to the top of the wall, so if anything shears from up here, either rock or soil, there's very little overburden. It'll fall behind the wall. We are proposing a fence on top of this. We didn't detail it yet. I believe a chain link fence, 4-foot high, would probably be the best fence to put up there. That drainage system is connected to the underground drainage system for the permeable pavement and also gets into our retention system. So all the water coming off this hill is also going into here.
So the water that runs off the hill now, before even the wall was started, that just ran and sheeted down towards Hamburg Turnpike, correct?
That's correct, along with all our blacktop.
And now at this point, with what this design is showing, you're now going to capture that and put it into a drainage facility.
Yes.
And all of that drainage that's being proposed also meets all the stormwater management requirements.
Yes.
Beyond that, concern always is soil erosion when something like this is being constructed. Just take us through what the soil erosion plan is, recognizing that the county also has a commission that's going to have to review and approve this, correct?
Yep, and we have not submitted to them, but we anticipate, and no, we have.
And you know what their rules and guidelines are?
Yes.
And you'll be able to meet them.
Yes.
Show us what you propose.
This is basically our storm drains, which will have filters on them. We've got details, we've got stockpile areas on here for soil. It's not totally complete yet, but it will be when it goes into Bergen County, Passaic County, correct? Here's the stockpile here. There'll be ample traffic pads for construction going in and off the site. They'll probably not be the rear, they'll use the parking lot and they'll have to maintain it. So by the time any vehicle gets out to Hamburg Turnpike, the wheels are virtually clean.
Now, you've observed the site, correct?
Yes.
And you recognize that there's been some construction that's already occurred.
Yes.
And on the basis of your overseeing this project in part, based on making these observations, and recognizing we've had an abundance of rain this past year and through the winter, have you observed any problems as it pertains to erosion, recognizing it's still under construction right now?
I have not been there to observe. I have not heard from any of the engineers or contractors or owners as to any issues.
And it's your professional opinion that based upon what is being proposed here, and we'll have somebody talk about the structural integrity,
Yep.
but as far as what's being proposed here, that the wall will function, will not create any problems from a soil erosion standpoint, and the drainage will be functioning properly.
Correct, yes.
And the drainage is proposed is far better than what existed even before the cut was made into the slope.
Yes.
Just walk us through the variances that we are now requesting.
So we can see that.
additional or new variances are the parking spaces from 73 to 60, to 69, where we're Ford deficient, not counting the EV parking spaces. The lot coverage where we need to be at 50% will now be at 60.44. Restricted slope area, any slope having a grade of 15% or more will be the 9,761 square feet, which was the brown area I expressed. And then surface parking areas could be set back at least 4 feet from the side or rear property line. 0, that was a variance that was granted prior. It's on the right-hand side of the building as you stand at Hamburg Turnpike, and that's existing blacktop and curb there today. And then we're also, construction of the retaining wall exceeds 6 feet in height, where I said 15 to 18, and it's over 100 feet long. It's about 345 feet long.
And we're also proposing parking to be installed in the restricted slope area, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that's part and parcel with where the parking lot is proposed with this wall.
Yes.
Mr. Whitaker, I just have a question. Mr. McNally,
Mr. Doolittle.
Doolittle, from McNally.
He's long retired and I'm close.
There you go. The wall height, you've mentioned 15 to 18 feet.
Yeah.
What would the general grade be behind the wall compared to the top of the wall? In other words, is it depressed down 1 foot, 2 feet, right?
I don't remember the exact figure. The design engineer for the wall can answer that question for you.
Okay, and the existing grades are shown on the drawing that has the coloring on it?
Yep.
The proposed grades are on that other drawing as well?
I don't know if they're on the steep slope drawing, but they are on the site plan.
Okay, proposed grades.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Understood.
Okay.
I have nothing further at this time with this witness. The integrity of the wall and how it's being constructed will be from our next engineer.
Okay. Any members of the board have questions right now for this part of the application that's been discussed?
Yeah, can you tell me, because it seems to go back and forth, how much has been completed or has been not completed for the wall? The
The
foundations are in, or?
The drainage has gone in as far as the retention area here. I don't believe the catch basins have all been finished, and the same thing with the drains out in the front. I believe they're in and connected. The wall has been excavated out by rock hammering because it's a hard dense trap rock, and they wanted to limit the amount of damage that they would do on any surrounding properties, and again, this other engineer will get into that. And then the base of this wall and foundation has entirely been installed with the stone and pipe drain behind it, below grade. And that will connect to the drainage system that's in. Beyond that, that's where they are right now before they got stopped.
Anyone else on the board have a question?
Yeah.
Mike?
All right, so I like the improved drainage, that's a big plus. So I just want to verify that we're going to handle the problems, which was previous to doing what you just said there was a lot of water running off the mountain through a pipe.
Yep.
And we don't know where that was coming from, but there was water coming out of it.
Right.
That will be addressed 100%.
Yes.
And then any of that overflow that was running through that before you did the drainage, which was running on the Hamburg Turnpike, that will completely stop also. Now, I'm not talking, flood events.
Right, right.
Just normal rain.
Normal rain, that would be taken care
There
of.
will be no more water running off the site.
Correct. That's what the drains are down here by the egress and the egress. And they go from curb to curb, so the water will be 100% picked up.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Doolittle.
Thank you.
Next witness. What do you
I'm
want?
gonna have, my back, see the rest of it.
My next witness.
Yeah, go ahead.
Please raise your right hand, state your name, and spell your last.
Ahmad Baghdadi, last name B-A-G-H-D-A-D-Y.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give this evening before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. You can have a seat. I'd like you to give the board and members of the public your background, educational and professional background.
I'm a professional licensed engineer with 20 years of experience in geotechnical and geostructural engineering. particularly retaining wall design. I have my PhD from University of Illinois in civil engineering and my master's as well. I've been in the industry for 20 years, working mostly in the New York area, New York and New Jersey area.
So would it be correct to say that your specific area of expertise is in civil engineering, the design and construction of retaining walls?
Correct.
And you are employed by a company known as SESI, S-E-S-I Consulting Engineers?
Correct.
And correct to say they are in the business of performing geotechnical and civil engineering work for the construction of such walls as is being proposed here?
Yes.
You are familiar with this site?
Yes.
And you are familiar with the plans that have been submitted by SESI in connection with this?
Yes.
So what I'd like you to do is to explain to the board, members of the public, what is being proposed from the standpoint of the type of wall it is, the material that's being used, and the construction technique that is employed.
Yes. So I'm the geostructural engineer responsible for the retaining wall design and the construction of it, the supervision of the construction of the retaining wall. The retaining wall is about 18 foot high at the most. It's a large block segmented wall that's placed one course at a time. So each block is about 16-inch height, and it's placed one on top of each other. The thickness of the wall, the width of the wall varies from 96 inches to 102 inches. And it's stacked one on top of each other. It's backfilled behind it between the rock surface, which is mica schist rock, very solid kind of rock, and each block is concrete block that's placed, and you backfill behind it and compact with clean stone.
Now, you've had the opportunity to review the drainage plans that Mr. Doolittle has testified to, and you looked at that drainage plan in connection with the design and eventual proposed construction of this wall. Is that correct?
Yes.
Does that drainage design meet the specifications for the wall construction that's occurring?
Yes.
In connection with this type of wall, how many of these type of walls have you overseen as an engineer with SESI Engineering?
About 20.
And have there been any problems with any type of walls built of this type of nature?
No.
Give me the sequence of what's done from your company as the wall is being constructed. There are on-site inspections. You've been to the site and know this site.
Yes.
Explain to the board and members of the public the daily routine of how this wall is constructed and the oversight that comes from SESI Engineering.
So we prepared construction drawings for these retaining wall. We make sure we have a daily field engineer that on site during the construction of this wall. We make sure that he makes sure that the size of the blocks are correct, the compaction of the soil behind it is correct, the level of the wall is correct, the number of courses is correct, and that's it.
So you have an on-site every day that's being done. There's an on-site engineer inspecting this.
Correct.
And they also create a log, do they not, of information pertaining to this?
Yeah, they prepare a daily field report and submit it to us, to the PMs to review, and then we submit it to ownership.
And besides submitting to ownership, it's basically that municipal engineer requires a wall certification, and that's part of what your assignment is.
Correct.
The material that's out there, the wall that you've seen chipped away, etc., does this wall that's being constructed now fit within the parameters of what's going to be behind it?
Correct.
And from the standpoint of civil engineering standpoint and the geological information you provided, it's your opinion that this wall will be able to withstand the rain and withhold the wall, the soil behind it, and function properly?
Correct.
You provided a geotechnical report, which we've made part of our application, and you also provided a report dated January 12, 2024. Is that correct?
Yes.
and that has been prepared by your organization, SESI Consulting Engineering.
Yes.
That would be A10 and A9. And your plans are A8, just for the record. I'm going to direct your attention to this report dated January 12, 2024. Your organization provided an opinion, an evaluation and recommendations. I'd like you to just go through that and place it on the record. Let me do it this way. You state in this report that you have created and provided and done test pits, is that correct?
Yes.
And from a soil and foundation support standpoint, this site can be considered good to excellent for providing satisfactory support for the construction of the proposed retaining wall.
Yes.
You've stated that the bedrock encountered at the bottom of the excavation and the compacted granular fill, as indicated on the retaining wall plans, will provide an allowable bearing capacity of 6,000 PSF.
Yes.
You also confirmed that groundwater is not anticipated to be encountered during the mass construction, but trapped seepage should be anticipated, and if groundwater or stormwater seepage is encountered, that sump pumps have to be used and installed below grade to allow for the dewatering of the excavation. And that's your opinion?
Yes.
And in connection with that, you've also recommended filter fabric that may be necessary above and below the clean stone to prevent migration of fines.
Yes.
You finally say that the recommendations presented in the letter and retaining wall plans are based upon the assumption that the retaining wall preparation procedures and construction will be done under engineering observations.
Yes.
It'll be done by qualified geotechnical engineers.
Yes.
And those geotechnical engineers are coming from CC.
Yes, SCSI, yeah.
SCSI. And at the same time, you stated that the inspector should provide full-time observations of the proposed construction.
Yes.
And you just testified that's what's going to occur.
Yes.
And we are stipulating that will occur if the board were to grant approval.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Okay, I have a couple of general questions. The wall, there's no kind of visual appearance of the wall anywhere that I could see. It just shows a bunch of blocks.
Yeah.
So as far as a photo, for example, of a wall completed like this, you don't have that with you?
I don't have it right now, but we can provide it.
Okay, I'd like to see what that wall is going to look like from the perspective of Hamburg Turnpike. That's
Okay.
appearance only.
Okay.
Secondly, on the way the wall is constructed, it does have a batter to it, and you have, what the question, on one of your drawings, which is the calculations for 735 Hamburg Turnpike, which is, I think it's A9. 3423.
Can you state the question?
Sure. What it shows is a section through the wall with the various depth of the blocks.
Yes.
And then there's a gray area behind that, a yellow area behind that, and an orange line that runs diagonally through the site. It would be the back of the first page of that letter. Looks like this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I got what you're saying, yeah.
And it appears on several of the pages, I guess, depending on where the area is taken from the cross-section. So is the gray area that's behind the wall, is that a pre-excavated area? Like where is right now, if I went out there, where would the existing slope, as it is right now, show on this drawing? Is it the orange line, the gray line, or?
Just double check it from here, because it's this one.
The gray line, okay.
Yeah.
So what we're showing on this, for everyone that could be looking at it, is there's a series of blocks that vary in depth, and they have a gray line that runs at a fairly steep angle to the existing surface, and you're showing that the existing wall matches the existing surface, top of the wall.
It's one block behind, so if you look at the construction drawing, it's one block under it, one course of 16 inches under it, but in the design, this is the extreme case, so that's why we're designing on this.
Okay, and then the area behind that that's yellow would be
Yeah.
the existing ground as it is today.
Right.
And the orange slope line?
The orange slope line is the line of failure, like.
Failure, okay, so like a critical path area.
Yeah,
Okay, so if that was sand, it would be 45 degrees?
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're showing that the wall is well beyond that, and you're showing that the area behind it is filled with the gray stone, that gray area is stone?
It's, yeah.
And the hatched brown behind the upper wall segments to the gray area? It's kind of like,
Yeah.
I want to know.
came from.
This, what are these little things behind the block wall? See right here?
This is just the same backfill material, nothing different.
So
this.
There's no differential between those two. So that's gray color and crushed stone right up to the back face of the wall.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood what the drawing was representing, and the reason for the photograph is because obviously we don't want anything ugly looking facing Hamburg Turnpike. And then the last question I have for you preliminarily, until the rest of the board gets on this, because you're putting so much stone behind the wall, that has to be compacted, I assume,
Yes.
vibratory.
Right.
Okay. I'd like to know your opinion of the effect of the vibrations from compacting the area behind the wall on the rock face and on the ground above it.
Minimal, almost no effect at all. It's a very solid rock. We're compacting it with not extremely heavy machinery. We took into account the earth pressure that this soil would put on the retaining wall itself. So the rock, we assume also the rock is decomposed rock in the design. So it's not the case. It's actually much more. It's solid. It's been standing for a very long time right now. And then the stone, when it's compacted and putting pressure on the retaining wall blocks, we took this into account as well.
Okay, so people that live above that would not have to worry about vibrations getting to their facilities?
No.
Okay, do you have a way to monitor that, where someone could set up a
We can
particle velocity, something or other, that will determine that?
we can put seismographs if needed. If you're asked for it, yeah, we can put vibration monitors to make sure that after a certain threshold, that we have to stop and look at it one more time.
Okay, I'm gonna ask our engineer to comment on that, but my offhand guess would be I'd want to be assured that what you're doing won't aggravate anything. And, you know, you're saying that it should not, but it would be nice to know that it did not. That would be to your benefit as well.
Yeah, that's simple enough. We are, as an inspector, we can put vibration monitors from our office on the rock faces, and if we hit certain threshold that we can agree on, we can revisit the compaction procedure.
All right, we'll have my engineer address that.
Okay.
That's all I have.
We would stipulate to that.
Thank you. Any other members from the board have questions about what's been presented so far?
The stone behind the walls could be clean crushed or QP, because there's drainage under at the bottom of
It's
the.
clean stone. Yeah.
Okay, so that'll allow
The water.
migration
Yeah.
of water beneath that. The wall itself, the blocks, are there, the design, do they have keyed parts where that they interlock,
They
if you
interlock.
will?
Yeah, there's a groove and
There's-
there's something
okay.
on top of it.
And it's unimportant, but the rock behind it is basalt, it's not mica schist.
Based on what we've seen it.
It's still hard.
It's
Very
on the
hard.
wrong side of the Ramapo for, like this, anyway.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman?
oh, sorry, go ahead, Mayor.
So the block is just bearing weight, there's no rebar in there?
There's no rebar. It's-
Fill in.
Yeah.
John?
Mr. Chairman, just why is it 18 foot for the wall height? Are you trying to, why is it 18 foot?
This is based on the existing grade and how much are we cutting into the hill.
Okay,
So that's where we got the.
okay, and all the cutting has been done,
Yes.
all right? So what, is there any concern with the current grade that it is at now? With the wall at 18?
No.
No. And you mentioned about the type of rock, and this the height, but can you explain what the difference is? Like, why is that a good rock? Or you said
It's-
solid rock?
It's a solid rock. You don't see much fissures into it. There's not much jointing. It's been standing for almost a year right now. And like some other rocks, like sandstones, for example, it get deteriorates with time. But this kind of rock, it's
Okay.
solid enough. It's more it's solid.
Okay, and then just one other question, I think Mayor might be for you. When you look at that property just above where they excavated, there looks like a historic rock wall that goes along
I
that
didn't know
top.
what that was, actually.
Right, and that's what my question is. Is there any concern with that property there? All of a sudden, again, you're gonna put seismic, but all of a sudden this thing goes, all of a sudden this rock wall starts tumbling down. So I guess my question is, from the seismic, if you're gonna be setting things up, I know it's gonna be up for the residents up there too, but you're gonna have a closer, I'll call it endangerment, if all of a sudden things start coming down.
Yeah, we already excavated this area by hammering this area, and the wall is standing.
Still.
Nothing happened. We can put vibration monitors if needed to just as an extra measure.
To make sure. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I just got a general question, and I don't care who answers it. How much space from the top of the wall to the back property is there? Anybody have that answer?
Yes, Doug can do that.
The closest point would be here, which is about 30 feet at the closest point on the, it's the northerly end.
And that's the closest.
That's the closest, and then it gets substantially farther away down here because the property line projects farther.
Okay, that's what it is. Thank you.
So we're still pretty far away.
How does it expand out from the 30? What does it go to?
Over here, the other end, it's about 115. And that wall you talked about is still here. The upper wall, the existing wall that's there prior to us starting, that's still here on the drawing.
And while you're there, what's the nearest structure to that corner of the wall?
Adjoining structure,
Anything, not on Hamburg, on the upper part?
this is so far back, I was there on Thursday, and this is more than 50 feet higher and it's substantially way back. There's a unit over here that's way far away as well. I would say well over 50 feet from the property line as well.
Okay, thanks.
So it's not on top of it in any way.
Mr. Whitaker, anything else you want to
That's all
add?
we have at this point with this witness.
Okay, is there any other witnesses?
That would conclude our presentation at this time.
Okay, I'm going to ask Mr. O'Brien, who's our engineer, to go over the letter that he's written and let us know what's been satisfied, what's not been satisfied, and what else we need.
Yes, and we have a response letter to his letter. So.
Oh, perfect. So was what I was going to suggest. We drafted a letter dated February 1st. Part of this would work well if the applicant would submit to us a point-by-point response back to us on what was done, what's left to do, what's new being submitted, and then we could take that and run from it. And I just got it. So, we'll review that. There are items that we talk about in our report that either was not addressed, still need to be submitted, we were a little vague on, and just pointed stuff out. So, for example, you brought up the parking tonight. and you're adding the EV stations, are you adding them or are you not adding them? If you are adding them, where are you looking to put them? Stuff like that.
So we can show you where we would put them, and if, as a part of the approval, you wanted these 4 EVs, they would then, the variance for parking would go away.
Okay. All right, so that would be up to the board if,
Yeah,
We got to know where, but go ahead.
yeah. So,
Yeah, but I
And we
think
can
that
show
would
you
be,
where.
that would, it would require an amendment to what you have, yeah.
We'd have to revise the plan, yes, we'd have to modify the plan for that purpose.
So then with the amendments that happen here at this board, and let's say that the board does approve whatever concept that you put in as an amendment, you would have to go back to the county planning board for approval?
We don't believe so because we've built what the county wanted and we've exceeded what the county wanted.
So as long as this doesn't add, for example, impervious coverage or affect drainage, they shouldn't have an
You're
issue.
working within the confines.
Exactly. In fact, as you heard from the testimony, the drainage they wanted and what we proposed and have installed is 50% greater than what they wanted.
Okay. Getting to the drainage, and you spoke about the drainage, we'll review that in detail as well. But one of the aspects of it that we were concerned with, part of your drainage is on the neighboring property,
Owned by the same,
owned by the same company.
same
So-
one. I revised our application to show lot 4.01.
Okay, so it's the same owner that's tied to
That's
it.
right.
So it'd be tied to it, so then your O&M manual would have to state that property as well.
Exactly. And you had made a suggestion in your report about an easement.
Yes.
Add to that, and we will certainly make that stipulation.
Okay.
That's not a problem.
You talked about the soil conservation submitted, you haven't submitted yet, but
Correct.
when you do, and if and when you do get approval, we'll need a copy of that.
No problem.
Just to keep it,
Understood.
and then we'll tie it to the approved plans, so everyone's on the same page. There's a dumpster enclosure with structural footings that we have concerns with, that's in the detention area. I advise you to look into it.
We gave you some grades in the review letter, and we're 2 feet above it,
Okay,
and it's no different than a tractor trailer driving over. Basically, it has no load on it.
good. Well, you got it in the letter, so I
Yes.
can review that.
Yeah.
That was a concern that we had. The retaining walls, we'll need the calculations for that. From a general perspective with the retaining wall, is it, the way you designed it, is a simple batter, 0 to 18 feet high going back, or are you looking up 5-6 feet, step back,
No,
up 5-6 feet?
it's one
You're just
back.
going straight?
Yeah.
Okay. So, just so the board understands, no step back, it's a batter going straight up 15 to 18 feet. Based on the picture that you passed around, that grayish block, so that's what's being looked at.
Well, that's
Yeah,
another
but
site.
that's not available to the public. I have a little, I don't.
So my
I don't think it's
suggestion is
referred
when
to
you
until they
submit
set something
for
up.
the drainage, the retaining wall calculations, also submit pictures of a proposed location, of what it looks like, so that everyone who wants the availability to review this, they can take a look at it and see, here's the calcs, and here's what the finished product could look like.
Okay.
All right? Getting back to the retaining walls, you're gonna have to, if this does get approved as amended, you have to submit for building department approval as well. So, they'll have the records, drawings on file. Excuse me. And then also for the inspection reports, I would suggest that you retain copies for yourself, and also put copies in for the planning board, so that we have a copy that we can tie to everything, at least at a minimum, the signed off certification for that retaining wall, as well as, we talked about it for the detention basin with O&M manual.
Okay.
We should tie the O&M manual, and for those in the public who aren't aware, O&M stands for operation and maintenance of the stormwater system. That should be tied to the deed, and since you have it on the neighboring property as well, 4.01, it should be tied to that deed as well, so just make sure it's tied.
I've done that with other projects, I know it's
Yeah,
required, yes.
and we have it on file so that when you wind up pulling the deed, and someone comes in 15 years from now and buying the property, the maintenance manual is tied to that deed, so they understand that what they have to do to maintain the drainage system underneath, how they have to maintain the porous asphalt pavement system. As your engineers will talk about it or discuss with the owners, you know, the issue with porous asphalt, it's a good thing for drainage purposes, but if it's not maintained, all the fines that are there to allow water to drain vertically clog up, and it just turns into a normal, very expensive parking lot at that point. So it's important to do the maintenance that's required to keep that area clean and free of debris so that water can actually drain vertically. If it doesn't, it just clogs up and it's like a sponge that is just filled with dirt and grime. It doesn't work.
And that's my concern, maybe you can help us answer this. What's our protection that that doesn't happen and water then comes back down on Hamburg Turnpike? So I agree.
So the protection with that, Mayor, is that this is a private development site. You have your stormwater management regulations that are in place, and on a yearly basis, now it's the applicant, but at the time it'll be the owner of the
Property owner.
site. They'll have to submit maintenance records to the town so that you keep it, so that when the town does their own reporting to DEP on a yearly basis, they can say this private entity did their maintenance for the year. So that's the important thing. I would also say that in the resolution, if this is approved, that we put a stipulation in there that the maintenance records have to be submitted to the town by December 1st of every year.
And that is an obligation, just so everyone's on the same page.
Everybody.
It's filed with the deed and it runs with the land. So if
Yeah.
this owner sells the property, when the title search is done, the new owner will see what their responsibilities are. So it's not something that gets eliminated when there's a change of ownership.
It helps with it's protecting the town for all the reasons for your own reporting system, but it also makes sure that the drainage system that's very detailed and will handle everything coming off of Hamburg Turnpike stays viable and doesn't collapse under its own negligence. So by maintaining it, it's a good feature to have.
And that's also a good point, because should that become a problem, not that it will, we still have 5 catch basins along that curb line that collect any overflow and gets it into the retention system that's in the ground. That would really help maintain the detention system in the ground by getting less debris in.
It's basically,
It's a double kill.
yeah, it's belts and suspenders.
Yes, thank you.
So just in case if one place fails, the other place is picking it up.
Carl, I didn't look at the construction of the pavement detail, but is the appropriate depth of clean stone that'll drain and appropriate depth of asphalt, because it's typically less strength in that asphalt, is it appropriate for what the site is showing?
Yeah, so we're gonna dive into that with the drainage review, with everything, just like how we dive into it with the geotech review for the retaining wall. We have stipulations in this, that if the board wants to move forward, that we would perform that review. In my opinion, I would say we'll do that review at this point, once we have all the items that we're missing from the applicant's engineers, and we can systematically go through those reviews and give the thumbs up or thumbs down for whatever. And if there's something additional that we need or that's missing, we can always contact the applicant's engineers and say, look, you submitted this, but I also need that. As long as the board and the applicant gives us free range to have those conversations, I have no problem with it. We've dealt with McNally's office plenty of times. It works fine that way.
Okay.
And then the lights. So yes, we have photometrics on there, but there's also the lighting calculations that are typical that goes with that. So we'll need the lighting calculations with that. So we'll work with McNally's office to make sure that's okay. Those are the big picture items with everything. Like I said, we just received right now the point by point. We'll review that. Anything that's not provided or submitted yet, we'll reach out to the engineer, and this way we can get it done. My suggestion would be if the board is not voting on this for tonight's meeting, and just because there's open items, maybe it gets tabled until the next meeting, so it gives us time to do the due diligence and reviews on the certain items. If there's stuff that's missing, it gives the applicant time to get us that by the time you have your next meeting, and then we can reconvene at that point. That's one option. The other option would be if the applicant wants to move forward with a vote at this time, it would be a vote with conditions, although there'd probably be a lot of conditions on it if it would get approved. I'm not the applicant, so I don't want to speak for it. It gives a couple of scenarios there, but those are basically the two options.
So our preference would be an approval with conditions, because the site is open and ready for development. We started the project, we stopped when we saw that there was an error in what was approved and what permitted was, and rather than to leave this open any longer, we would like to be able to move ahead. So we recognize you wouldn't have a resolution till the next meeting, but then at least, that's March, at least in March, we could get started, whether permitting to finish it off. I've been told by our engineers that the project could be done between 8 to 12 weeks in total. So we'd like to get it done as soon as possible, so that the drainage can be finalized. It's
Thank you.
important when springtime comes.
Yeah, if we have a normal spring. It's been kind of crazy year.
It has been.
All right, anything else, Carl?
That's all I have at this time.
Okay, one last chance for now, just for the board member before I go to public.
Yeah, I've got a question. I think it probably goes to Mr. Doolittle. You talked about the retention system at the rear of the property. Where does the outfall of surface water from the retention system go? Does that percolate?
There is none. There's no direct overflow. It would, if it built up high enough, wind up coming out that drains by the street. That would be only a very severe situation.
Yeah, but it rains, it fills up.
Yep.
And when it fills up, it reaches an outflow.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and that outflow, is that regulated?
One of the strip drains out of the front, you can come out of one of the lower two.
Right. And does that come out to, gallons per minute, or 100 gallons per minute, or 1 gallon per
Probably
minute?
based on the rainfall.
Right, so there's no regulation.
Just the
If there's a heavy rainfall event when the tank is already full,
Yep.
then you're not limiting the discharge.
There's no regulation for the overflow. That's why we've gone and made this 50% bigger than required.
Right.
I got where you're going at. What is the design storm that you designed?
100 year.
Alright, so it's designed for a 100-year rain event, which in this area is 8.7 inches.
I don't remember.
I think it's about eight and a half to 9 inches over a 24-hour period. So that system should be able to handle an 8.5 inch rain event over a 1-day period. The last one we had like that was, what the heck was it? No, it was a few years ago, September. August 31st, September 1st. Irene. So that was the last rain event to that substantial measure.
Yeah, but the point of the 100-year flood event doesn't mean it's 100 years before it happens again.
No.
It's just a level to
It's a
compare.
chance.
So it could happen tomorrow, or...
You could have 300-year storm events back to back to back in days. The way a 100-year storm event is, it's the chances of that happening in that given day.
Yeah, right.
It's not one storm every 100 years. And you have one storm out of 100, that's what it would be.
Right.
So
would you not want to attenuate the water coming out in that event?
So the restrictions by the different agencies that review everything, in this case soil conservation, it's all regulated by New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection.
Right.
Their requirements are that 100-year storm event. So you design to that standard,
Really?
and then you back off from there. Now, and then the town has your ordinances that mimic the language there as well. So your ordinances are in line with the states. So, designing your drainage system for that 100-year event is the norm on how you just design that stuff. The relief for this is, as Mr. Doolittle said, is, the blow-off valve, let's call it, is coming out of the trench drains. That's what it is. Worst case scenario on stuff is if you don't have a blow-off valve and it's all underground, the water's gonna find the path of least resistance and just gonna blow something out.
Yeah.
So you don't have that case here.
So in the event of the 100-year storm event, it'll discharge onto Humboldt Turnpike?
Yes. Yeah. At that point, everybody's getting in a boat and paddling away somewhere. But that's not, and I don't want to speak for the applicant, but that's not just this application, that's everywhere.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Bear in mind, it's
that's-
happening now with every storm.
But during its normal operation, it percolates into the ground, correct?
Yeah, and that's something that we'll also review as a perk results of the soil to make sure that that soil is amenable to drainage that's necessary for it to perk into the ground.
Right.
If it's a clay soil, let's say that's the case, that's not good soil. You don't want it to perk into the ground. So there's certain soil types that work.
So, Mr. Doolittle, have you done the percolation tests?
We have not, we will do them. We have no issue with that.
Right. Right, so as it stands, we don't know whether it works or not.
But standard condition and design is always percolation tests, post-approval, to make sure that it's condition of approval.
And if it's not, then they have to replace materials
That's right.
or change the design.
Exactly.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Anyone else? Okay, you're done. I'm gonna ask, you could vacate the table for a moment. You can stay there, Mr. Whitaker. I just meant so that we have a place for someone to sit. Okay, so when I open the meeting for the public, what I'd like you to do is, if you want to address this, you can ask any questions you want to. At this point, I'm not looking for statements or opinions, but trying to get clarifications of questions you have. So just raise your hand, I'll call you up when you come up here. Have a seat, relax, just give us your name and your address, and then go ahead and ask your questions, and whoever the relevant person that can answer that will answer that for you. Motion to open for public comment?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we are open for public comments. Please, questions? Please raise your hand and come on up. Sir in the back.
Hi, my name is Louis Bellini. I live at 214 Ridge Drive in Summit Falls, behind the construction that's going on. And I have a question about when the work began to satisfy the requirements of the county to go back further to satisfy the drainage problems. There was a lot of work being hammered into the mountain, so the mountain was being removed. And when that started, we saw a lot of material disappearing. In fact, we have some pictures before and after. So a lot of the mountain slid down. Trees slid down, with a tremendous amount of soil came down. My question is it gonna stay that way, or when you put the wall up, are you gonna put that material back? Because you have a different contour of the mountain as it is now.
Valid question.
The material behind the wall goes back.
Well, I don't know where the wall is, because I didn't see, from over there, I didn't see the plans. But I know there was a tremendous amount of hammering being done, and do you have the pictures?
I don't.
There are some really good pictures of before and after.
If you have the pictures, please, if you have pictures, please submit them.
Right, the town has the pictures, right?
They do?
No, but
Yeah,
the board
because
doesn't.
trees came down.
The board doesn't.
Generally what, I don't mean to
Go ahead, I'm
interrupt.
sorry.
Generally, if a picture is going to be considered by the board, you need the person who took the picture to say, yep, I took it on, generally here's the date, and it's an accurate depiction. So you can't just go look at a random picture.
Sure,
Yeah, you need the
sure.
person who took it.
So we'll get the pictures to this
Carm is the secretary. Her office is right across the hall over here. Or you could just mail it to the borough to her attention,
Yeah.
and then we'll have them for next month.
Okay, so I'm not really familiar where the wall is going to be and where that slide was, but I know several large trees came down with it. And if the wall is there, it would be nice if some of that soil went back, because it's pretty dramatic what happened. And that's the main reason I think most of the people are here.
Okay, that's fine.
I think we can.
That slope is just hanging on a shear. There was no limit as to how far we were going back. So once the wall is up to the stone behind it, the wall must be level with that point, and then they can clean that area up. By putting more dirt back, and the trees are still hanging in, we'll remove it and basically make it clean up.
Where did the dirt go? I mean, a lot of things, was it carted off? Was it carted off?
No, it's a huge stockpile actually there right now.
It's still there?
Yeah.
All right, so.
So it's.
Okay, thank you.
If it goes there, it can go back.
So it's stipulated,
We ground.
it's stipulated the material will go back after the wall.
No, hey, guys, one at a time.
It's stipulated that the material will go back after the wall is constructed and be leveled off and graded.
Thank you, Mr. Delaney. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Kathleen Strauss. I live up in Summit Falls as well, on the board up there. So I just have a couple questions. When they were doing the excavating work and they were hammering through the rock, vibrations were felt in townhouses that were all the way on the other side of our development. They could actually feel the vibrations. So I just want to make sure nothing was done with the integrity of what we have within the grounds. Okay, for the townhouses, because it was felt not only in the townhouses that were there, but all the way across the development. People were calling us up every day, what's going on, you know, pictures of shaking and everything
Yeah.
else.
Okay, so your question is,
I want to make sure that the integrity of our land in Summit Falls up there on the hill has not been disturbed, you know, constructurally, everything is still sound, number one. And number two, if there's now a straight drop behind the townhouses that are at that one part, the lower part of our street on Ridge Drive. Now there's a straight drop. So from their backyard, kid kicks the ball and runs to go get the ball. He falls down the mountain. He's going straight down. He's
okay,
dead.
so the question there is,
There's no fence.
how is that going to be protected? So the two parts here are, for what I'll interpret is, was any monitoring done during the excavation to determine whether there was an issue with ground vibrations? And secondly, is there any way to address her concerns about the possibility of somebody getting hurt with the sheer drop-off? No, sir, not yet.
The testimony that we have from the witnesses, there was a fence above the wall when the wall's finished and it's all.
Okay, well, that's the question she's asking, so,
Is it along our property line, along the property line there?
Now it's gonna be on top of the
On
wall
top of the wall.
itself.
But it doesn't, but
And then that shear you're talking about, the wall will meet that. That's, until the wall gets up, we can't really hide that. Once the wall is up, that'll be more into grade.
but
So if someone were.
it's still a straight drop from their property.
Well, that-
It's not, you know, you're not gonna tumble down the hill, you're gonna fall and you're gone. So
Only, you're gonna be 18 feet higher than being gone because the wall is coming up with a fence on it. So if someone were to fall down there and tumble through,
So they're-
they would stop at a higher elevation because we dug into it, but we've raised it up substantially.
So they won't put a fence along that property.
We don't have any reason to put a fence on there. We want to put a fence on top of the wall, so nothing goes over the wall.
there's a requirement that you can't have a wall without some protection for falling, so, on the wall.
Okay, so, and you stated before that when they were chipping away at the rock, I heard you say the way that process was done was to limit damage to other properties. So,
One way to do that instead of blasting.
so when you said limit, yeah, but that,
To what degree I wasn't involved in that, so I don't know where that went. But I know chipping is definitely a better way than to come in there and blast.
all right, so I just want to make sure, because he said limit,
Right.
that we don't have any property damage up there.
I'll address that in a second.
Okay.
What I'd like you to do is tell me if you've had any monitoring results from the time that you were doing the excavation, by whichever means you excavated, and if you did, that's what I'd like an answer to. And if it's someone that hasn't been sworn in and is gonna be a witness, I have to have them sworn in
Yes,
first.
understood.
Thank you, Ms. Strauss.
Want me to bring that witness up now?
Not yet. I just want to get all the questions in first. Anyone else have questions that were similar or different? Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Can I just stand here?
No- Oh, yeah, if you need to, we may not be able to hear you.
Lee Rossi, 32 Ridge Drive. I'm glad that Dave Paul is here because I've been involved with him for years now on this project. And I want it stated that, and I have this in writing, that he said he would, up on our property line, he would make sure that it was stable. He would put a fence or trees, everything that he took down, because everything was taken down. We see Hamburg Turnpike, we see the garages, we see the buildings, we see everything. Our whole property has been devalued because
I'm
of
going to
what we
object
can
now.
see
First,
from our
it's not a
windows.
question.
Yeah, can you restrict it to just questions, please? So the
Yes,
question is,
I want to know if Dave Paul is going to admit right now, and everyone here, that they are going to take care of us up there. Not just structural, but also the way that we want it put back the way it was.
I'll have to have somebody sworn in. I'll take a break before I have that answer.
that's fine. Anyone else have a question? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the meeting to public comments.
We got one more.
Oh, we got one more? Okay.
All right, yeah. Dan Halowitz, 157 Vista Terrace. I guess it'll be quick. My question is there going to be additional jackhammering on site and excavation? And then can someone speak to the difference between the vibration compacting of the stone and jackhammering? Is it similar or is it significantly different with regards to sound and vibration? Because my unit is clear on the opposite side of the hill, probably one of the furthest points away from the site. And I worked from home for several years in my basement and felt it day in and day out to the point where I actually thought I was, I thought it was my imagination. So anyway, those are my two questions.
Okay, thank you.
We can answer that question.
Not yet.
Oh,
I don't want back and forth. Okay, anyone else, questions?
Oh, and just one more,
No, well, make it quick, because I'm trying to get to everyone.
okay, just one more thing.
Up here, and your name again, please.
Kathleen Strauss, 174 Ridge Drive. If there are any other modifications that are done, they will have to go before the board. It won't be carte blanche where they can just make a change and not go back.
They do not get carte blanche, ma'am.
Okay, all right, just want to make sure.
No problem. Okay, so, motion to close.
Make a motion.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Whitaker, will you have those
I'd like
addressed?
to answer the question pertaining to the types of compaction that goes on between chipping and what's going to be done with the stone. You're right here. We got it.
It's, the
Up here, please, so you get the microphone.
Yeah, the hammering will generally get you much more vibrations, significantly higher vibrations than the compression. Compression will have minimal effect, and you shouldn't feel anything. And we added to that, we can have vibration monitors with thresholds.
Okay, and were there monitors during the construction or not? Who would know that?
I don't believe so, but
I'm going to check. I
we have to check this.
have our construction contractor here. I'll
Okay.
go over that, and we'll just take a break and just want to review it.
That's fine. It's your meeting right now as far as
To make the question.
answer the questions and or take your break and come back and answer the questions.
Take a break.
Either way is fine.
Okay, we'll take a break and answer questions.
Okay, we can just take a motion to suspend the meeting for a short time.
You can suspend the meeting.
Okay, I will suspend this meeting for 5 minutes, 10 minutes if you need it.
Okay, thank you.
And you can wait around or not, it's entirely up to you all. As soon as they come back in, we'll resume the meeting. Okay, I'm calling this meeting back to order. It is now 9:06 PM. Mr. Whitaker?
Yes. Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead with your presentation or whatever.
We had concluded our presentation, but questions were asked pertaining to restoration of the property. You heard the testimony from the engineer that it will be graded back to the wall. We understand that the residents as neighbors, and trying to be a good neighbor, recognize that they would like to see a fence along that property line besides the fence that would be on the top of the wall, and the applicant will stipulate to put in a 4-foot chain link fence for that purpose. In connection with the chipping of the wall that was done, no monitoring was done, I'm advised, during the time that the wall was chipped, but we've stipulated that for the compaction and anything else that has to be done, vibration monitoring will take place.
Okay, thank you. So we took care of that one and that one.
You have a question that didn't answer, and I was interested. Will there be any more chipping of the wall?
No.
Okay, so the other thing I'd like to go over is how we ended up here at this time with the conditions that we have, which is a project that had to be halted and a site plan that showed A, but ended up becoming B because of the county. So I was wondering if you could just give us a summary of how things went from the final approval here to where we are tonight.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm advised of the following. The plans were approved here, as you're well aware. Those plans, of course, was with your construction department. I'm advised that thereafter, they went to the county for approval, and the county made modifications as it pertains to the drainage. Substantial modifications, as you know, putting the drainage to the rear. Those plans were reviewed by the town, and they saw that those plans created a better drainage situation than what was approved here. You heard that testimony tonight. And they not only permitted that to go on, but they inspected that drainage that was then installed. And in doing that, that's when they went back further and got to the point of expanding the drainage. And the way they had to expand the drainage, they wound up then saying, we're going to have to put a wall in, and started chipping the wall. And that's when the construction department said, hold it, that's not on any plan that was approved here, stop the work. The material had already been delivered, stop the work, and we've stopped it in that pattern until we get it before you now. So that's what I'm told is the sequence of events.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. All right, you're completed with your presentation, correct?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So the board has heard questions from the public, questions from ourselves. There's a lot of ifs and maybes and presentation that still needs to be made based on some of the comments that our engineer made. And we have two options at this point. We can you can vote on a motion to approve or disapprove, or we can vote on an extension, request an extension to next meeting so that all this information can be presented to us. And if that's the case, then what we would do is continue this application into next month. And at that point, I would take not only additional questions from the public, but also statements from the public as a result of the full hearing. Does the board member have any preferences?
You know, this project, it's been stretched out pretty long. I think their presentation tonight, I think, was excellent. One of the best ones, most professional ones we've seen in a long time. But I think there's so many stipulations and stuff. I really think we should continue it till next month. That's my opinion. That another month isn't gonna make a big deal. It's really been stretched out a long time, this project. And I don't think another month is gonna make a difference.
I have the same concerns because we've got a lot of things to be seen yet. So, other members of the board, Steve?
Well, I'm bearing in mind that our engineer had volunteered the two options. We either halt here and come back next month when everything is done, or our engineer would undertake to work through those conditions contingent upon which would follow our approval. So if our engineer is comfortable with that and the attorney has stated if that would be his preference, then I don't see why that could not take place. That we could not make a resolution to approve, subject to the details to be worked out. And of course, if the details can't be worked out, then it's going to come back to us anyway, isn't it?
Right. Anyone else have an opinion, Mayor?
First of all, I agree with Brian. I thought the presentation was done very well and explained a lot. I would like to see, and I think you brought it up, Chairman, on how the wall is going to look from Hampton Turnpike. just because that's gonna be a very visual place as you drive by. Now, you can see some of the wall now as you drive by, but it's not fully in. Is there a way they can do a quick drawing of something like that?
I'm sure they can.
My suggestion would be, if we could have a situation where we know the information your engineer wants, know you want a photo or a rendering, if you will, of what the wall will look like. We can get all that information to you before the next meeting, but if you could take a vote tonight with saying, hey, there's a lot of conditions, you still have to approve a resolution. Because if we wait and carry it to another meeting, and then you vote in favor, and thereafter we have to wait another meeting for the memorializing resolution, we're getting further into a season. We'd like to get this work started as soon as possible.
We could always-
It's been ongoing for a while. And I've done enough of these applications in the past that 2 engineers putting their heads together between now and the next meeting, we could be ready for a vote. We could document and memorialize it at the next meeting. We'd take the straw vote tonight.
Or we could always, we've waived the resolution also, we've done that.
Yeah, let me just discuss.
My only issue is if there's gonna be more testimony and more evidence that comes in, it makes it a little difficult, so.
I wasn't suggesting any more testimony, I was just gonna send an exhibit in, which would show you what it would look like, that basically be it. The rest of it is our engineer getting together with your engineer and satisfying all the requirements. We gave him the letter, I know he hasn't had an opportunity to look at it yet, but the letter basically addresses all the concerns he had.
Well, we don't have a copy of that letter either, since he was just given it tonight. Any other members have opinions?
Mr. Chairman, do we know the status of the building itself in the point of view of occupancy?
Mr. Whitaker?
Who's occupying the building itself?
No, when they
Or
plan on
timing of, is there an imminent tenant?
I'm not sure. There is, I understood there was leases that were promulgated for this, but I don't know when they start. I'm not doing that work, I'm just doing some entries.
Okay, I'm just thinking of timing, what's the rush if there's no tenant available?
Chairman? Chairman,
Yes.
one thing, I know that the applicant's looking to move forward with this, but the application has not even been submitted to soil erosion. So that's not there, that's a process of itself. Soil erosion approval is needed to do earthwork. So, pushing this to the next meeting might not be the worst thing, especially since the soil erosion approval is not in hand at this time.
My opinion is that there's just too many things to be done that need to be presented so we can evaluate them properly. I would be in favor of extending it to next month for a vote. Now, if you want to get some general opinions, we can certainly offer them, but what is that what I suggested?
We have the votes, you continue it to next week.
Continue to next month, but you have a resolution that would be able to be, if you work with Mr. Whitaker.
I will endeavor to get all the conditions that were put on here, still gonna be contingent on work that's gonna be done by the engineer, and the pictures, that if you're happy with them, I will endeavor to put one together. I just think that without him having given his analysis, if that's what the board wants, I will start drafting.
Well, I'm trying to be cognizant of their needs and also what should be done by the public, for the public here at this board. So my personal opinion is one vote here, but I prefer not to have a vote tonight on it. But I will defer to what the majority of the board wants to do on that. And the second part is if there's a way to expedite the resolution, that could be accommodated where the engineers and the attorneys kind of work together in the next few weeks so that a resolution could be available. We could actually vote on it and pass a resolution the same night, correct?
Yes, you can do that.
Does that make sense, Mr. Whitaker?
Does make sense.
And that would basically you wouldn't lose any time that way.
That's correct.
So it would satisfy us and you?
Yeah, yes, it would.
Public has not had a chance to comment, only question.
Right, well, that would be at the next meeting.
Okay.
So the resolution, if we were to come up with this resolution, it could be modified that night before we agree to it, like if there's a certain additive in there, it could be added.
Yes.
And if it's good, then it's good. But we would take any comments rather than questions, at the next month's meeting, unless they prefer, if they prepare additional testimony, then the public would have ability to question that testimony only, and then comments at the end of that meeting, and we can button this all up. Okay, so I'm going to just take a straw poll of the board. Do you prefer to have an outright vote tonight, or to have something where we vote on it next month, continue the meeting, which would continue with the notifications, and at the same time allow us to, if necessary, modify the resolution?
Excuse me, may I say something to the board?
No, sorry. Emery?
I think we should continue this on next,
Continue.
yeah.
Mayor, let's go right around the table. Mayor?
I'm okay, and it seems like the applicant, if we can get everything done in the same meeting, the only quick concern I would have is, will they be presenting any new witnesses at the next meeting?
No, we don't anticipate that, no.
Because that would make a bump in the road.
Yeah, no, we've answered everything.
But it could be additional testimony, because there's going to be
Additional
missing information, yes.
No new witnesses.
No new witnesses,
Our
okay.
engineer will be here to answer any questions based on the revised plan. But the plan, we'll get it in and have your engineer review it in advance.
And then we'll look to get your review
Satisfy
letter.
all the conditions that you brought up tonight. I took lots of notes.
It should be a relatively expedient meeting next time.
Okay.
Yeah, the sooner we get all the information to review, the
Understood.
quicker we can turn the letter around.
All right, let's continue. So, Mike, you okay with that?
And then he mentioned the soil, is that something that'll happen within the next meeting?
Well, any approval is subject to Bergen County, the state county soil
Right.
conservation.
But the application,
That's another governmental entity.
and it's always subject to,
Any government.
any resolution will have subject
Yeah,
to.
I'm fine.
Yeah. Eck?
Same.
Greg? Paul? Emery, you're okay? Bill?
Continuance.
Continue. John?
Then,
Steve?
Yes, I agree, that's fine.
Okay, so the straw poll is that we will continue this to next meeting. You do not have to re-notify. The public is notified here that next meeting you will not get another notice, but the meeting of
March 19th?
March 19th. Come on, it's after St. Patrick's Day.
Well, you'll have another face sitting at the table. I'm away that day. It happens to be my birthday. My family has told me a year ago that I gotta be somewhere, so, but I'll have another person from my office here, no problem.
Well, so at least send the birthday cake. Jeez.
Too many candles.
We have a fire department for that. Okay, so with that said, is everyone's okay with extending this?
Yeah.
We don't need a motion for that, correct?
That's correct, because we agreed to.
So you agree to it, and we all have a game plan here, so I'm just gonna ask you to cooperate with this response time, so that we don't miss the timing.
Understand. We'll move ahead expeditiously.
Thank you very much for your
Thank
presentation.
you for your time this evening.
Okay, take care.
Can you guys get everything
And we'll review our stuff to see what we have on that.
Mr. Chairman, would it be the next meeting where we'll hear the list of stipulations? Okay.
We should have them.
Okay.
Hey Doug? Hey Doug? Debit?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you, sorry.
While they're clearing out, I have a question for you. Any question, Jeff?
No, is that more with them? Even bigger.
Well, I was in two engineers.
You were here so quickly, I thought you were
retired. And we had worked together on a couple of things, and I should have been working with you, but I know that you were both NJIT. You see your older brother, call myself.
Mike, you gonna close the meeting?
Yeah, just give them a minute to clear.
Yeah, well, between you and I, you know, when you want me to finish.
We don't have anything else on the agenda.
You know what I'll do? I'll email you,
I'd like to just finish the meeting up.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
See if I can find something.
Okay, thank you all for coming. The only thing else we have left is an open public comments on any questions on the other than the agenda, and if not, I'm not gonna open it up to the public for that. And, If that's the case, then we'll just look for a motion to adjourn.
I have a question though,
Okay.
kind of related. We get correspondence and memos all the time from surrounding towns, and they're, why do we care? It's funny, we don't get anything from our own county though, if somebody approved or disapproved an application. Does that seem odd to anybody else?
Because of the drainage plan? Technically, they should be part of everything that's done at the county relative to how it works should be copied back to us.
Okay.
And to the engineer or to the,
You said should.
should. Is it?
And it's something on our side we miss?
I don't know.
Typically, it should go to engineering, building department, clerk's office. You know, I have other towns where they just send it to the clerk, and the clerk tests it out to everybody. That doesn't mean that it's being sent though.
Got it. All right.
So the answer is I don't know, but maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but either way, they explained the
Well,
situation.
but again, this is number two, the second time this happens, right? Because
So
with
I
car
get
wash.
copies from the state county, unconditional or whatever, and I always forward it to Sal or to
Yeah.
the engineers. They get copies of it.
But as long as you got a copy.
Right, and this is after the fact, because they get replied by after it's been, approved or anything. So then I get to Passaic County, then I get to soil erosion. All that gets sent over, and I forward it over to you guys.
Yeah,
whatever
and that
comes.
builds our, so for example, like the soil erosion stuff, we need that for the project to actually go to construction. So,
And I haven't seen any.
if I don't receive the soil erosion, I can't discuss that with Sal or Karn to say, yeah, they're good to go to construction. If I don't have soil erosion, we're not signing off on it.
Got it. All right.
So the rush that he's talking about is kind of.
I don't
That's
know.
what I'm trying to make the point of, if
Can't
the
move anywhere.
soil erosion doesn't say anything, we can't do anything.
We can't do anything anyway. It's not like, we're not holding him up. You're not holding him up.
We're not.
And as
But-
well,
but
soil
should they have
erosion is
already
not
gotten
something that
it?
turns it around.
I mean, they've disturbed the
Soil
ground.
erosion is typically.
I mean, I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't know how many square feet they did, but
Prior to this?
Yes.
it
They
seems,
never-
if they
they
need
moved
one, they should have had one a long
Already.
time ago.
Yes, I agree. Although it would have been changed because they modified the site plan from the county.
I mean, not for nothing, but it sounds like they moved forward without approval.
Yeah.
For soil erosion.
That was pretty much it. And I only wanted that on the record. I'm not gonna try to point fingers at this
No,
point.
same here.
I just wanted on the record that this was something that happened and it wasn't something that we did or that building department did. And we are where we are and we're moving forward.
And the latest plan set that they have, their engineer has not submitted those plans yet to soil erosion anyway. So even if you voted tonight,
Okay.
they're not ready. So
No, I would not have entertained a vote tonight if I had the choice.
the minute that they went over that, that's what they said, we don't have our plans in, that's a concern.
And what I'd like to also be able to do is, Carm, did you have a full digital of everything that they could submit tonight?
Everything was sent to you guys.
I know, but I mean, was everything that they submitted tonight, or except for that, maybe that one plan, was digital or not?
This, I don't know if this is, is this the old one they were showing and then the new one that came that you received? I don't know what this one was.
Because I had to look at the plans on my monitor at home, which is a lot bigger than my phone, obviously, to be able to make sense of them, and I just wanted to make sure we had all of them.
Whatever he presented with this exhibit, that's why I asked, is this an exhibit? He took it, so I don't have it.
That's his new plan. That was not in the list of what he submitted.
Okay, so we would want to get a copy of that digitally,
Yeah.
and then we'd have, at least then we'd have, and then anything that is coming from them for next meeting, same thing, digital. Just bug them.
I do, and even with
And you know what,
this meeting.
if they don't comply with what we're requesting, especially with approvals, then we're not gonna vote next month, is it?
Well, I told our engineers on the way out, whatever you have, new documentation, send it all to Karn, and then she'll distribute it to everybody. I said, don't send it to me directly.
Like I asked her prior to this meeting tonight, the Whitaker's office, is there anything being presented tonight? Can you send me anything? And she said, okay, nothing. She didn't have anything, so.
Yeah, they hand
Like,
it out there.
then there's a letter from, nothing, so,
That was the other question.
yeah.
So again, Mr. Chairman, going back to the original. So this is the second time, because last time when they did the car wash, we had a radius for that intersection, but the county changed it,
Yes.
right? So we didn't get notified until after construction. So my question is, I guess the planning board does not have to be notified if the county denies an application. That's gonna be up to our engineer in our office to act upon a denial.
But they don't send anything directly to the planning board. Once in a while, I get copied on stuff, but most of the time, it goes to the town end of it.
And I can-
So we're not, so what I'm saying is, it's gonna happen again.
Well, and then and what I was gonna bring up just real quick is, we have the Housing Authority projects coming. The county reached out to me yesterday and said, as a courtesy, we are gonna come to the planning board to present our salt dome, but they don't have to. So like you're saying now, there's no letter coming from the county in an email saying, by the way, next, whatever, we're gonna come with these plans for the salt dome. They're gonna contact Carmen, they're gonna set up a date, and they're just gonna show up and present. And,
There's still gonna be a salt dome here?
I just got something from them, from the state county.
Talked about a
I
shed.
have a whole application that just came in.
Yeah, so what happened is we worked out an agreement to keep salt here. It's not gonna be a shed, but the county, and we just had a meeting about redevelopment. The county's gonna own the property where the salt shed dome is going to be. So that is their property. The rest of the property is going to the housing authority. Okay? They do, because they're not really a county organization, quote unquote, do have to follow all the rules and regulations of what they need to do.
Right.
The salt shed part, since it's the county, they don't. They can do what you were just talking about, show up when they want, present it as a courtesy and move on. I convinced them to at least do the courtesy, but we won't be waiving any permit fees, for example, for the housing authority, even though they are a quasi-county organization.
But that we do get approval on.
Yes,
That you will.
The housing
yeah,
part.
and that was, they asked specifically that question, and they said, yes, we are, the position, they require site plan.
Yeah. The only thing that, there's something in the land use law that's any, and I forget the wording they use, but any construction project that the town does theoretically is supposed to come here. If it's using capital funds.
We're
Isn't that
not,
right?
we're not using any funds.
No, I'm just talking about in general. Like if you decided to put a building up in town, if you decided to erect,
Yeah,
you have to come here.
come here for capital review, not.
Capital
But the
review.
county doesn't, it's a courtesy review.
Yes, courtesy of capital.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not an approval. It's not approval, you just have to go, and even if the board says nothing, in 45 days, you've checked it off. You don't have to do anything, but the board gets to review it and give comments in consistency with master plan and everything else they want.
Yeah.
But that's not an approval, that's a recommendations, a
Right.
referral.
But with this project, and I agree with what John is kind of saying, they kind of did something with the county, and rightly so, they made their changes, but they really should at some point reach out to us locally and say, hey, we made these changes, just so you're aware, when they come back.
But what made it worse is they agreed on the drainage changes, and that resulted in, there was no other place to put it except to go into the mountain. Is that basically right? So it forced them to build something that they weren't planning on doing because of the drainage change. So the county in their, own little world may have said, okay, we're just changing drainage, and then they came back in and said, oh, well, now we have to do this, and nobody told us. So, I don't know what, John, like what to tell you, go down, knock on your door. Bring the power of your position down
It's
there.
that public sector that I always never understood. But,
Anybody else have questions?
just one last item was, I know one of the complaints from the resident was the fence, but she also mentioned it about, tree coverage because now you can see Hamburg Turnpike. So I just want to make sure if it's in part of the resolution that fence and coverage, like that one guy promised.
Well, that brings up an interesting point, but if those trees were on the applicant's property, he can take them down. If they were not trees on the developments, then they don't have a whole lot to go
Is there a
about.
space between the development and the applicant? Yeah, I think there is.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
And who owns that? We don't know.
Yeah, I'm just looking right here. So it's 35 feet, but to the wall, it looks like it's another 6 or 7 feet. So it's almost 40 feet to their property line. It's quite a bit. That's to that short corner to the left.
I mean, I think the
Maybe
stuff
it
that
looks
came
like
down
40
is the
feet
part
to the
that they
property
cut
line.
out.
Big quarter was, what do you say, 115 feet?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's okay to ask for trees if they're agreeing to it, but we're not able to enforce it.
The answer to both your questions is my plan for that condition is to say that they will restore property of members of the public to their satisfaction prior to doing anything. So they're going to have to, so if it's on, if these missing trees were on Gap property that's not a member of the public, they can't be forced to do it, because that property owner might not say yes.
But if it's private
But
property,
it's going to
yes.
be, if it's property owned by a member of the public that spoke here, that's how I'm a little nervous about doing this condition, but a few of these, but it's gonna say, they have to propose and get the approval of that member of the public to restore trees, landscaping, whatever was lost as a result of this original chipping and construction prior to commencing work. So they're gonna have to agree to that.
And I think,
And that's,
But then who owns that
He did say he
that
was
strip
gonna-
of land,
he would
you know?
do it.
in
good faith.
Because they're condos.
Well, I think my understanding was he's saying we're gonna put a fence on the wall, and that on our own property line.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so it's gonna be, so not putting it out on anybody else's property.
No, I know.
But the restoring of the trees can only be done to a member of the public that can consent to it. Because they can't be told to put trees on some property that the applicant doesn't own or anybody else does. Because they might not have
It
consent.
would be the board.
Put black vinyl
But
on the fence, black vinyl.
But what I'm saying is that if these guys took down some trees as they chip back the mountain a little bit, they can entertain the idea of putting trees back, but they don't absolutely have to. They cut down some of their own trees.
On their own property.
On their
I
own
agree.
property,
I
yeah.
seem to think that some of the people, at least it was, vague enough that maybe some of their own property was impacted. Maybe not.
I think the tree is what they were.
I don't have a visual of it.
But if they would have approached us prior to excavating, maybe the residents would say, all right, go ahead, we'll approve it, just don't touch that trees, because then I'm gonna see Amber Turnpike, if they
And that is
think it
one of
was
the-
before.
And I don't want to throw anybody under the bus about it, but I guess somebody should have noticed chipping up a mountain that wasn't part of the plan.
Well, if they were gonna do this, it probably should have been surveyed at some point. Really.
Right, so we should have, I mean, I don't know if it's our fault, their fault, their engineers, whoever, but someone should have noticed the machinery chipping away a mountain. So, hey, we gotta look into that. So, unfortunately, it was going south, it's south over there. So it's a little off, and I understand, it's a little.
But they noticed it. Working at home.
Oh, come on, my house shakes every time the quarry used to have an explosion.
Yeah, I actually feel the quarry by my house.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
Not this one.
No, the one on Parkdale. The one in Parkdale, when every time they blast around 11:30 or 12,
Yeah.
my house shakes. I'd be curious to put a seismograph in there, just out of curiosity. It's probably low, but it's enough to actually,
We adjourned?
Can we make a motion, Mr.
We did
Chairman?
not adjourn yet.
no, we did not, because somebody had questions.
John Keating was keeping us open.
Don't say anything, Mike.
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
Okay, sure. Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Now, so I just want to quote the board, something that's new from the state just came out, that now the towns are going to be responsible